For a long time, stability felt like the point, not excitement, not fulfillment, stability. A steady paycheck, a routine that worked, a life that didn't wobble every time something unexpected happened. Stability meant you had done what you were supposed to do. And for a while, it worked. It felt like safety. But then something subtle happens. The same structures that once made you feel secure start to feel thinner. Not broken, not failing, just less solid than you remember. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. This isn't about everything falling apart. It's about not noticing that the ground doesn't feel as firm under your feet as it used to, even though nothing obvious has changed. Most of us spent years chasing stability because instability was exhausting. Early adulthood is chaos dressed up as freedom. You're improvising constantly. Money is tight. Time feels uncertain. So, stability becomes the promise. If you can just get things settled, then you can relax. And then one day, you look around and realize, well, things are settled. The calendar's predictable, the bills get paid, the days stack up neatly. And instead of relief, there's a strange awareness that is all more fragile than I thought. That's a hard realization to admit out loud because stability was supposed to equal safety. I mean, that's the deal we were sold. Build the right structure, make the right choices, and the structure will hold. But eventually, we notice the cracks, not dramatic ones, quiet ones. We realize how much depends on a single income stream or a single role or a version of yourself that has to keep performing reliably. You realize that stable often just means working for now. And that can feel unsettling in a way that's difficult to explain to those that aren't experiencing it. Because you're not ungrateful. We're not ungrateful. But you know what instability feels like. And you don't romanticize it. But if you also can't unsee the truth. Stability isn't the same thing as certainty. Certainty is what we were really after, right? We wanted to know that things would hold, that the life we built would be enough to protect us from the unknown. But certainty was never part of the deal. We just confused the two. I know I did. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about much. When that stability stops feeling like safety, the instinct is to panic or escape, to assume something has gone wrong. But often nothing has. You've just reached a level of awareness that stability can't keep quiet. Because stability manages risk. It doesn't eliminate it, though. And maybe that's the discomfort that we're feeling. Not that our lives are unstable, but that we can finally see how much effort it takes to keep them that way. This this realization, it hits especially hard when you're responsible for more than just yourself. When other people's lives lean on your consistency, when the margin for error feels small. Suddenly, stability feels like a cushion, and a small one. Maybe even not a cushion anymore. It's almost more like a balancing act. But that doesn't mean that you did it wrong. It means you're awake to the weight of what you're holding. There's a difference between safety and awareness. Safety feels invisible when it works, right? Awareness never does. Awareness can feel like anxiety if you don't know how to name it. You start asking questions you didn't have time for before. What happens if this changes? What happens if I can't keep this pace forever? What happens if the structure I rely on shifts beneath me? Those aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that you understand the stakes. I don't think the answer is to abandon stability. And I don't think the answer is to cling to it too hard either. I think the shift is internal. From believing stability will protect you to understanding that stability is something you actively tend and nurture. It's not a shield, it's a system that requires attention, your attention. That realization can feel sobering, but it can also be grounding. Because once you stop expecting stability to provide certainty, you stop feeling betrayed when it doesn't. You begin to see life more clearly, not as safe or unsafe, but as something that requires presence. And maybe that's the quiet work of this season, not finding new ground to stand on in this phase of life, but learning how to stand more honestly where you already are. Stability didn't fail you. It just couldn't promise what it was never designed to give. And recognizing that isn't a loss. It's clarity. Anyway, that's where I'll pause for this thought. Not with reassurance, just with the reminder that seeing the ground clearly, even when it looks thinner than you hoped, is still better than pretending it's solid when it isn't. And sometimes that awareness is the real safety.